At around 8 p.m. on September 30th, 2021, 3 children ages 6, 6, and 7 were reported missing in the Flamingo Lake neighborhood in Montgomery, Texas. According to the parents, the kids had gone missing after they went into the Sam Houston forest and wandered off the main trail to go play at a creek. After the disappearance was announced to the public, the authorities launched a massive search that included helicopters, dogs, drones, off-road vehicles, and hundreds of police officers from multiple law enforcement agencies. The next morning, an anonymous Good Samaritan who was very familiar with the layout of the woods decided to take matters into his own hands and went into the national forest by himself to find the kids. At around 9 a.m. on September 31st, the man found the kids and called 911 to bring the children to safety, and the whole rescue was captured on Sergeant Jason Smith's Bodycam. Even though they had spent the night with minimum shelter and hadn't had anything to eat for 24 hours, the children still seemed to be in pretty good spirits as Sergeant Smith escorted them out of the woods. And toward the end of the video, he can be seen guiding them to the clearing where a bunch of cop cars sit waiting for them. "Come on, kids. Let's come out to the road. There you go, buddy. Look at you made it." It's honestly pretty terrifying to think that if they hadn't been found then and there, the kids would have probably ended up succumbing to the elements. But thankfully, they were able to get back home to their parents. On September 9th, 2019, an Albuquerque Police Department officer saw a young man performing a traffic stop on a gray Nissan SUV. Strangely, the man wasn't dressed like a police officer at all. In fact, he was dressed as an ordinary citizen in jeans, a black polo, and an Air Force cap as he wrote down the driver's information. As it was later revealed, this was a complete lie, and the truth was that he bought the badge online as he had initially confessed when the cop interrogated him. It's hard to imagine that he thought he was going to get away with a lie like that when there was video evidence of him saying that he bought the badge online less than an hour ago. During the interview, it was also revealed that Brendan was only 18 years old, even though he said he was around 25 when the cop initially pulled him over. This makes the fact that he said he was married and needed to call his wife even more sketchy, and it's hard to tell which details of the story are true and which ones are completely made up. A few seconds later, things get a little scary when Brendan confesses that he had a loaded weapon in the glove compartment of the vehicle, which wasn't initially visible in the video. Considering he's a compulsive liar and an irresponsible teenager, it's pretty horrifying to imagine what he would have done with the handcuffs and gun had he been given the chance to play vigilante for a few more days or weeks or whatever. In March 2020, a judge sentenced Brendan to a year of probation. But just a few weeks later, he failed to report to his probation officer, refused to get a psych exam, provided a false address, and missed a scheduled meeting. As a result, the judge tightened his probation conditions, and as of today, there have been no further updates to the case. On December 25, 2020, a 63-year-old man named Anthony Quinn Warner drove his RV to Nashville, Tennessee's 2nd Avenue and woke up nearby residents with the sound of a robotic digital female voice coming from his RV warning everyone around the vehicle to evacuate the area. All buildings in this area must be evacuated now. If you can hear this message, evacuate now. The female voice repeatedly mentioned that the RV was going to detonate, and a little after 6 a.m., the voice became more and more insistent, announcing that the vehicle would detonate in 15 minutes. In the Bodycam footage that was later released by the authorities, a group of Nashville police officers can be seen walking around the downtown area, urging any stragglers to evacuate for their own safety. Even though the explosive inside the RV was extremely powerful, the cops managed to evacuate most of the nearby residents, and thankfully nobody outside the RV lost their lives. Although 3 people were injured and had to be hospitalized after the vehicle incident. The only person who lost his life was Anthony Warner himself, who was still inside the vehicle at the time of the detonation. After the incident, the authorities started digging deep into Anthony's past to figure out what could have caused him to do something so insane, and what they found was pretty disturbing. As it turned out, Warner was pretty much a paranoid loner obsessed with conspiracy theories about shape-shifting alien lizards that were trying to take over the world. It was also revealed that 16 months before the explosion, Warner's girlfriend had called the cops to report that Anthony had been building explosives inside the RV outside their home. Even more disturbingly, less than a week before Christmas, Warner's neighbor had reportedly asked him if Santa was going to bring him anything good for Christmas, to which Warner replied, "Oh yeah, Nashville and the world are never going to forget me." But despite the clear desire for attention, the cops never managed to truly figure out Warner's motive, and it was eventually concluded that he probably didn't want to hurt anyone and that a fatal cancer diagnosis mixed with other factors had contributed to Warner's declining mental health. On March 9, 2023, at around 12:30 p.m., an anonymous caller dialed 911 and told dispatchers that a man that had just run into a food market on Cleveland Central Avenue was claiming that he had just been kidnapped. As soon as police arrived, they were able to talk to the alleged victim, and the GIN conversation was captured on one of the cops' body cams. "I won't be a two to fix his busted pipe for his washing machine. I'm putting a water line for his ice for his refrigerator, and when I got downstairs, another dude came out. They had guns on me and they robbed me. That mean they tied me up. They had plastic on the ground." Disturbingly, the zip ties and duct tape that were used in the kidnapping can still be seen on the man's body as he explains what happened to him. After stealing his phone and Apple Watch, the kidnappers bound the victim and put him into the back of his own van. As the perpetrators drove the van towards the city's central neighborhood, they made the victim call a friend and bring around $15,000 to a nearby gas station in exchange for his return. But as the van slowed down, the victim somehow managed to jump out and ran down East 49th Street. Thinking quickly, the victim ran into a convenience store where he would be protected by the public eye, causing the suspects to drive off. 2 weeks later, the cops managed to make an arrest, and Ahmed Johnson was charged in Cleveland court with aggravated kidnapping. As of today, there have been no further updates to the case. On April 8th of 2021, police officers from the city of Whitehall, Ohio, about 6 miles away from Columbus, received a report that a man was allegedly impersonating a police officer at a traffic stop. Upon arriving at the scene, they found a 26-year-old man named Casey Donovan Williams, asleep in what appeared to be a Whitehall police cruiser. When he woke up, he told the cops that he was an off-duty cop working a special duty detail. At first, the officers bought his story, but when they were told there was no special duty assigned at that time, they returned to get the real story, and the exchange was captured on the cop's body cam. Even though he seems to have a pretty intricate series of excuses to justify his actions, the cops sense there's more to the story than Casey's letting on. After mentioning to the cops that he was just trying to make a little extra money by allegedly working for the Glenwood Police Department, he realizes his chances of getting out of an arrest are pretty slim, and that's when he resorts to asking the cops for mercy. "That's all I was trying to do. Please do not. I'm asking you for courtesy, man to man. Please do not ruin my career." I think you did that kind of on your... Throughout the exchange, it seems as if Casey either doesn't realize the severity of what he's doing, or he really thinks the cops are going to let him get away with showing a fake badge and even carrying a weapon while pretending to be an officer of the law. Still, things were about to get a whole lot worse for Casey, because after he was put in the real police officer's cruiser, the cops searched his vehicle and found a loaded AR-15 rifle, a tactical vest, a loaded handgun with 15 rounds of ammo, a taser, 2 pairs of handcuffs, and pepper spray. It's pretty disturbing to think of what could have happened if the cops hadn't arrested Casey then and there, because even though he didn't seem to have any bad intentions at first glance, Casey could have used a badge, vehicle, and weapons for some pretty nefarious purposes if he wanted to by simply convincing people he was a real police officer. From kidnapping to extortion and everything in between, a fake cop can be extremely dangerous. As it was later revealed, this wasn't the first time the suspect had gotten in trouble for trying to pull similar stunts. Although at one point he had been a corrections deputy at the Poway County Jail, he was forced to resign after trying to enforce his authority as an undercover cop at a fair when he hadn't been instructed to do so. After the incident in Whitehall, Casey was charged with impersonating a police officer, a 3rd-degree felony, and improper handling of a gun in a motor vehicle, a 4th-degree felony. On January 30, 2017, New Mexico police received a disturbing call from a witness in Nevada who claimed he had seen a woman being taken out of her Las Vegas apartment by a man and put into a white van with the Texas license plate. After receiving the alert, the cops were able to locate the van in question less than 24 hours later and arrest the driver and passenger. The cops find a woman named Jane who was chained to the floorboards of the van by the suspects, and as soon as the officers set her free, she gives them her disturbing testimony. According to the victim, the man who was driving the getaway van was her ex-boyfriend Jack, who broke into her apartment and took her. Even though she fought hard to escape, Jack was trained in mixed martial arts and was a lot heavier than her, and it didn't take him long to take her out of her home. Jane assumed it was her neighbors who saw the altercation and called the police, and it was thanks to that 911 call that the cops were able to rescue her. During the investigation, the police found that Jack and Samuel had planned to take Jane into a cave in New Mexico that Jack had dug into the side of a hill, where they would later brainwash her into marrying one of them. According to the police report, after the horrifying incident, Jack was sentenced to life in prison and Samuel to a little over 5 years in prison. It's pretty disturbing to imagine where Jane would be if that 911 call hadn't been placed and the cops hadn't intervened.